remember back to absolute value, if you remember the definition of absolute value was distance from 0. Okay, so whenever I take the absolute value of something, what type of number do I have? Or what type of number do I get? Positive. And so up here on the board, if you look, okay, it says evaluate m plus 6 minus 14 if m equals 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 4 right here, and I'm going to plug it in right here for the m. And so all I get here is 4 plus 6, the absolute value of that, minus 14. So what is 4 plus 6? 10. So I've got the absolute value of 10 minus 14. What is the absolute value of 10? 10. So now I just need to subtract 10 minus 14. And what do you get when you subtract? Negative 4. Very good. And that's it. Okay, so it's just a matter of replacing a variable with a number. So let's go ahead and look at this one. I want you to do this one for me. Evaluate 23 minus the absolute value of 3 minus 4x. And I want you to place your answer on your expression, please. You what? Okay, answer is 18. Okay, so let's go through. We should have ended up getting 23 minus the absolute value of negative 5 because it came out to be 3 minus 8, right? So I know that the absolute value of negative 5 is just 5. So if I take 23 minus 5, I get 18. Alrighty, let's look at this one. What statement makes this true? So I just want you to put what you think the answer is. Does 5 make the statement true? Does negative 5 make the statement true? Does neither 5 or negative 5 make the statement true? Or does both 5 and negative 5 make the statement true? Okay, so I just want you to take a guess. Think about that and give me your best answer. The answer is D. Okay, so let's look at this. So if I put 5 in here, what's the absolute value of 5? 5. So 5 equals 5. Ah, so that one works. Okay, so then now let's put negative 5 in there. What's the absolute value of negative 5? 5. So that's why both A and B make the statement true. So one of the things I want you to understand is that with absolute values, there can be 2 possibilities. Okay, and that's going to lead us into our next slide right here. Okay, it says solve each equation, then graph the solution set. Okay, now if you remember what I just said, with absolute value there are 2 possibilities. And so up here on the board, I want to get rid of those absolute value signs so I can actually solve this equation. But as with the previous slide, I'm going to have 2 possibilities. And so on the previous slide, it was plus or minus 5. Here, it's going to be plus or minus 17. Okay? Because I can have 2 possibilities that make the statement true. So what I'm going to do, in order to make things a little easier, I'm going to split this up. And I'm going to write this as n plus 5 equals 17. Or n plus 5 equals negative 17. So that's what the plus or minus means. It means a positive 17 or a negative 17. So now in order to solve this, for n, this first equation, what am I going to do? Subtract 5. Good. So what do you get n to equal? 12. Nice job. What am I going to do over here? Subtract 5 again. But what do I get n to equal here? Negative 22. So now it says to graph the solution set. Okay, so I've got a 0 here. I'm going to use 2's as my interval. So here's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So here's where 12 is. All right, so I'm going to put a dot for 12 because that's one of my solutions. Now I've also got to put a dot for negative 22. So here's negative 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. So there's negative 22. I'm going to put a dot, and that's it. So all you're doing on the number line is you're putting 2 dots. Okay, yeah.
So whenever it says then graph the solution set,
Yep.
that's when it's plus or minus.
Yes.
The set.
Well, whenever you're solving an equation like this, that's when you'll have a plus or minus. Okay, b minus 1 equals negative 3. Now, before you go much further, I want you to tell me, what do you know about absolute value numbers? They're always positive. So I want you to look here. Here I have an absolute value, right? So what do I know about every answer here on the left side when I take the absolute value of it? It's going to be positive. So this is always going to be a positive number. I want you to look over here now. What type of number is that? Negative. Can I ever have a positive equal a negative? No, so this is a nice one. There was a reason why I didn't have a number line on this. Because this is one in which I can never have a positive equal a negative. So can you guess what my answer is going to be here? No solution. So that is something you're going to look for. If you ever have an absolute value sign just all by itself equals a negative number, you will always have a no solution. Okay? So that's going to be one of those things to file away. Okay, let's look at another one. So as you're writing that down, I want you to think to yourself, can I get a solution here? Yeah, because it's positive. Okay, so now to undo the absolute value, remember, I'm going to put plus or minus. And that's what allows me to get rid of those absolute value symbols. So then now remember, I write this as how many equations? 2. What's my first one going to be? Mm-hmm. Nice job. Okay. Now what do we do to solve? Subtract 2. Very good. So my first solution is y equals what? 2. What do I do next? Or what do I get next? Negative 6. So once again, I need to plot points. So I've always got to start with a 0. Now, you can choose to go with 2's if you want, because these are multiples of 2 as well. So I could do a 2 right here, put a dot. And then I could do a negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, and put a dot there. But you always need to have 0 on your number line. Okay? You've always got to have 0 on that number line. Think you can handle those? Because we're going to look at another type of problem. Okay? For a company, now I don't know if you necessarily need to write this down. For a company to invest in a product, they must believe they will receive a 12% return on investment. That's what ROI stands for. Plus or minus 3%. Write an equation to find the least and greatest ROI they believe they will receive. So let's look at this. It says 12% plus or minus 3%. Can somebody tell me how to write that? Yeah.
0.12.
Okay. So can I write it that way? I mean, just because that, you're right with 0.12. Okay, now let's finish the rest of it.
Plus or minus
Plus or minus
3.
3. Perfect. So let's see what that means. What does that mean? That means 12 plus 3 and 12 minus 3. Okay, so what's the biggest amount that they can expect to receive? 15%. What's the smallest amount they can receive? 9. There you go. That's the greatest and the least. So far, so good. So see, they had a bunch of other stuff in there that you didn't really need. All you needed to do there was 12 plus or minus 3. And that's actually going to lead us into our next section. Oops. Skip it. There we go. Now, these, for some reason, they can be difficult if you don't pay attention. If you pay attention, they can actually be the easiest problems on your homework. Okay, I've got some steps that we're going to go through to make these easy. The instructions say write an equation involving absolute value for the graph. So those 3 steps are what you're always going to do. First step is you're going to find the middle of the 2 points. That's your very first step. So I've got the points 11 and 19. So I need to find where is the exact middle of those 2 points. So if you've got 11 and 19, where's the exact middle? Now this is the easy way you can do this. I'm going to put one finger on 11, one finger on 19. And I'm gradually just going to go in one at a time till my fingers meet. Okay, so here I go. I now go to 12 and 18, 13 and 17, 14 and 16. So where's the middle? 15. See how I did that? So start with your fingers, gradually move in, you'll get to 15. So the middle of the points is 15. Count the distance from the middle to one of the points. So from 15 to either 11 or 19, doesn't matter. What's the distance? 4. Fill the values into the equation below. Okay, so x minus middle equals distance. So my equation will be x, and then what?
15.
Okay, x minus 15 equals, what's my distance? 4. So I'm going to have to use these 2 numbers up here. Okay, you've got to use those 2 numbers up there. That's why the steps, if you write them down, they're a lot easier because they basically tell you what your equation is going to be. Okay. So, step 1, find the middle. Step 2, find the distance from the middle to one of the points. Step 3, plug it into x minus the middle equals the distance. So we're going to try one of these on our own. Okay, now, if you need to get some of this down, at the end I'll go back to this slide and you can write it down. But we're going to go through the same steps here. So I've got 17 and 27. First thing I need to do is find the middle. Okay. So where's the middle going to be? And like I said, if we need to, we can use our fingers to count in. But where's the middle? 22. So here's my middle. Now I need to count the distance. What's the distance from the middle to one of those points? 5. Good job. So now my equation, x minus the middle. So x minus what? Equals? There you go. Pretty straightforward if you use that formula. So this is what I need you to do for tomorrow. Okay, I need you to do 14 through 42 the evens on page 106. Okay, 14 through 42 the evens on page 106.